I just want to do God's will.
The kind of revolution that the world needs is a Christian revolution.
If you want a miracle, you've got to expect it to happen.
You are the recipients of God's grace and God's blessings, and you rejoice in that reality.
Welcome to Life Today Live, guys. Listen up. This is for you. And ladies, this is about the men in your life, so you're going to want to hear this too, because you are a critical part of helping us be the men that we need to be. But guys, we need to step up and take responsibility. How do we do that? What are we missing? How can you improve your relationship with God, your relationship with other godly men, which will help your relationship with the women in your life, whether it's your wife, your even your children. I got adult children now, and this is all just right out of Scripture. And if we will just listen and act on it, it will help you. I promise. I have with me the executive director of what's called the Crucible Project, and we will explain to you what that is. But he's got a new book as well. It's called Unstuck. It's available where you get books, and we're going to tell you how to get a free PDF download if you want to do it that way. But the point here is not to sell books. The point is to help you as a man become the man that you were created to be. And I don't say that to wag my finger in your face. I'm here to offer you hope that we can get unstuck out of our ways sometimes, that you know how it is, guys. We all know, even if we don't want to admit it all the time. But there is something more. If you're feeling like maybe there's something more, God has something more for you in this life, well, he does. We're going to talk about it. Roy Wooten is the author of the book, and as I mentioned, the executive director of the Crucible Project. And he's with me again. Roy, good to see you. How you doing, man?
So great to be back with you, Randy. I'm in good shape. Thanks for asking.
And, as we were discussing before the program started, at the beginning of September, I always spend time with my core group of guys. And it's a bunch of guys I went to college with at Oral Roberts University many years ago. And, we discuss where guys are at. We kind of catch up because we don't do this on a regular basis, but we're close. We don't miss a beat when we get together. And it's interesting, the dynamics between men, because I can look at guys that I know and love that have, kind of cut themselves off from the other guys and even from the church and from God in some cases. And it's not going well for them all these years later. And there's other guys that we've stayed connected. We keep each other encouraged and a level of accountability, and it doesn't have to be a harsh thing. And you can see, okay, these guys are thriving. And you go, yeah, what God's outlined for us in Scripture, it is actually true. And the older you get, the more you see it. What are you seeing when you look at men out there in our country and in the church?
Yeah, so a study came out in 2022. 3 out of every 5 men can only name 5 friends. 1 out of 5 can in America can't name 1 friend. So we have an isolation crisis, and I believe Satan's number one tool for taking out men of faith is isolation. We can't do life alone. When 2 are together, it's strong. When 3 are together, it's even better. Mm-hmm. And, so much about not doing life alone, we put in the marriage and couples arena scriptures about that in the couples and marriage. But I believe it's about not doing life alone also with men. And so much of what we do as men is we get into a struggle about something, and we begin to believe the lie, number one, that we're the only ones struggling with it.
Yeah.
That's a lie Satan gives us. Number 2 is we've got to figure it out on our own. And so when people ask us how we're doing, when other men, sometimes people we've done life with for a long time, ask us how we're doing, we're not honest with them. Mm-mm. And we fear that if we really told them the truth, they'd reject us, that would be, kicked out of their life. And we live with the shame. The secret grows more powerful in secrecy. And shame keeps us from being able to do life the way that God called us to be, to have true connection with others. And the other part that I see men doing in this place is that because they're not feeling strong, they come to their woman, or should I say womanhood in general, and they're looking for womanhood to answer the question, am I good enough? Am I man enough? Am I strong enough? And sometimes that looks like getting involved in an extramarital relationship or getting involved in a virtual relationship online or some other way of trying to get our brokenness question
Yeah.
fulfilled by womanhood. And the truth is we never will be able to. God never meant for your wife to fulfill the needs that only he can.
That's true.
And we can find that in a company of men, being real with them, in a small group of men, in a safe group of men,
Yeah.
being real with them, being authentic, telling on ourselves, as it were, and finding out that we're not the only one that's struggling with something, and also getting strength from that group of men to take back to our wife, right?
Yes.
To face the temptations in the world, whatever that may come, and to have a group of people that it's harder for Satan to take us out.
Yeah, you know, one thing I realized too late in my marriage, but yet many years ago, is that I really need to put the proper expectations on my wife. And one of the improper expectations is to expect her to be a man in my life, right? You know,
Right.
I need guys, and they need to be godly guys. And I think this is part of the problem for a lot of men. But I need guys that, yes, I can complain to about things. And you got to be, you don't go, denigrating your wife to your friends. That's not the thing. I'm just saying that, hey, here's what I'm struggling with. Here's what I'm facing. Here's the things I don't know. And to just have that group, but it has to be, they got to be biblically grounded. I mean, I got one friend that, the guy is he's a rock, and I appreciate that about him. I'm not going to say his name because I probably haven't told him because I don't want him to get a big head about it. But, seriously, he's one of these guys that it's like he doesn't say a lot, but when he says something, it's usually like true and like scripturally true. And it's one of those I walk away and go, okay, that was really good. You got to have those. And for a lot of guys, the reason they don't have them is they don't want to open up and find out if that guy's going to be it, because trust is a big issue.
Right.
Or they just don't know where to begin. So for a guy who's like, yeah, I'm one of those guys that I can name tons of acquaintances, but I can't name one true friend. Where do they even start?
Yeah. Well, beautiful thing. In 2002, a pastor in Chicago inner city took a chance and began a ministry that evolved into the Crucible Project. So for over 20 years, we have been putting those kind of men in contact with themselves to work out the things that are between the ears that are keeping them from being the man that God's called them to be, primarily that shame stuff, and connecting them with God in a deeper way so that they can wrestle with God around those things, and then connecting them with other men so that they have men to do life with. It was January 2009 when I was running a rather large Christian counseling ministry in Houston, and one of my buddies said, you need to come try the Crucible Project weekend. You need to see what they're doing. He said, while Promise Keepers was an inch deep and a mile wide, this is a weekend that's a mile deep. And I was like, I don't know if I want to go to that.
No,
but
right?
I was intrigued. I was intrigued and also skeptical that there was anything that was really going to wake men up. And I went on the observation side to see what they were doing. But by the first break on Friday night, I was like, wow, God's really going to deal with me on some things that I thought that I had put away a long time ago. And the benefit of my experience had me telling the founder of Crucible on Sunday at lunch, as we sat there at the retreat site, I want every man in my life to experience the incredible grace that I experienced on this weekend. It's such a unique and strange, weird kind of weekend that has such powerful it's like watching a miracle after a miracle after a miracle, that I just wanted everyone to feel it. About 3 weeks later, I was sitting with my wife over dinner, and she said, "It feels like I got the husband that I married back." This was 20 plus years into our marriage. But there was something about me getting more connected with myself, with God, and with this group of men that I started doing life with, that had me more connected to myself in such a way that I was able to be open and bring her some connection that I didn't even know I had stopped giving her. It was a powerful thing. Plus, on the weekend, I had a dozen or so counseling sessions the week after the weekend in my office, and I picked up some tips and tricks and tools that I had never experienced anywhere else, that grad school didn't teach me, that all the conferences I'd been to didn't teach me. I picked up some tips and tricks to help other people that I started using in my office immediately. So it benefited those that I was serving in the ministry that I was leading, but also benefited me and my connection to God, my wife, and my kids in huge ways. So I am forever in the debt of Greg Houston, our founder, and the folks who came alongside me and helped me see some things about myself I didn't even know I needed to change.
Do you cover some of those things in the book, Unstuck, some of those tips and tricks you say?
Yeah, so I think the whole idea of Unstuck is based on particularly one of our exercises on the weekend. Our weekend is a series of experiences and exercises sequenced in such a way that God is using powerfully to help men from wherever they are to help get them wherever they want to be. And the big takeaway, I would say, from the book that is the big winner for most men who are reading it is the reason that I'm stuck usually has to do with some fear about if I get into action, I believe something really bad will happen. So I want to have a better marriage, and I need to have the conversation, or I need to do the thing that I need to do to make my marriage better, but I'm afraid that if I do all that, it won't work, or if I do all that, I'll be rejected, or whatever the fear is. Mm-hmm. I want to take my career to a new level. I want to write the book. I want to start the business, or whatever that is that I'm stuck in. And I fear that it won't work, or I fear that the book will be rejected, or whatever. So I stay stuck. And while I'm staying stuck, I get comfortable in my stuckness. Yeah. In other words, it becomes familiar to me. And then there's another reason not to get into action on the thing that I want to do, because I don't know what that is, but I know what this stuck feeling is. And in reality, here's the big takeaway. We are usually creating the very thing that we fear might happen that's bad while we're staying stuck. While we're staying stuck, our marriage is not getting better, it's actually getting worse. Mm-hmm. Our career isn't growing, it's actually we're getting behind. Yeah. We're further along in not being able to get the book out, and some other people have gone and spoken into that space that I would have been out in front of, et cetera, whatever those things are that we're stuck in. And realizing it and really thinking through what I'm getting out of staying stuck and what the risk is, and realizing that the risk is minimal because I'm already actually creating what I fear might happen. Yeah. Then I finally have the courage to face the fear and move through it, right? Yeah. I finally have the courage, in prayer, with counsel around me of good men, to go ahead and take that step and go for it.
Yeah, I think of it a little bit almost like maybe someone who's in a boat, and you just get tired sometimes of fighting to move in the right direction, or you feel like you're not getting the wind in your sail that you need. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so you just kind of stop, and you're not doing anything wrong, but you're not doing anything. And in a boat, that just leads to drift. And drift right. just 100%. Takes you further and further from where you want to be. And I think a lot of guys, it's funny because, yeah, there's comfort in kind of quitting for a while. But then most guys get really just almost agitated, and because you're just drifting, and and you don't want to be. And so I think God's put that kind of built-in dissatisfaction with the drifting into us, so that maybe we'll wake up and say, okay, it's time to start steering this boat again and getting moving. I want to ask you about this, but so let me show people real quick, because you mentioned this. This is the crucibleproject.org, and you see up there they got women's retreats and men's retreats. And I'm looking at the schedule here, and I can see, in September you did Colorado, you did Illinois, you got Minnesota coming up, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Illinois, Virginia, California, Texas. I saw Connecticut, Wyoming coming up. So I'm kind of seeing them spread out across the country. And so, if guys can do that, then obviously we would encourage that. Not everybody can do that. You don't have room for every man that needs help, right?
Right.
What do you suggest for those who are like, yeah, that sounds great to kind of dive into a weekend like that, or maybe they're just too scared to? Well, surely there's something else that they could do. And I'm not trying to shortchange the weekends. I'm just trying to give some practical steps for guys who are like, yeah, I can't do that, but man, I need to do something.
Yeah. So I would say a couple of things. Number one, connect with two men, right? Have two other men in your life individually and just ask, hey, I would like to get real with you guys. I would like to, I would like it to be reciprocated for you to get real with me. And I'm going to take a chance to, if you say yes, we need to agree that what's between us is kind of like Vegas. It's not going anywhere, right? And we're going to get real with each other. We can start with a prayer. We take turns checking in with each other, only giving advice if you ask for advice, and find out if they're trustworthy by telling them something, not the deepest thing, but something, to see if they hang on to that. And if they reciprocate, then you can take another step and tell them more. I think that's a good start. Your pastor or a church near you, if you don't have a church home, if you don't have a pastor, would be another good place to start, having a conversation with him about this. Be careful. Pastors have a lot to be fearful about around this. People in ministry have a lot to be fearful. I remember I was a young man, just became a dad, we had been married 4 years, so I'm 24 years old, teaching an adult Bible system at the church where I was. And my wife's body every cell in her body was really focused solely on our little son, right? This new blessing in our life.
Yep.
And when there was time for her and I and our connection, it was really a lot of leftovers, and hardly ever was time. And I started having lust in my heart more than I had ever in my entire life. So I scheduled a meeting with the pastor, and I said, hey man, how'd you get through this period where your wife is like really all about the baby, these first like year, 18 months of having a baby? And he goes, well, I never really struggled with it. You need to talk to our elder board. So I went and had the conversation on a Saturday morning over some Bibles and coffee, and I shared the same thing with them. And they said, well, I never really suffered, I never really struggled with any of that.
Really?
And at the time, 24 years old, Satan told me that I'm the only one that struggles with this, and I better not ever tell anyone else. Sitting back at 57, the man I am today, I know those men were lying.
Yeah.
And they just were fearful about telling the truth about and helping a young man out. One of the reasons why I love Crucible so much is because we're not ever going to be like those guys, right? Ever. And I want to make sure that any man who comes and tells me a story knows that it's going to be met with confidentiality and authenticity. But I'll give you another. Here in about 6 to 8 weeks, you should be able to find in Right Now Media and perhaps on YouTube. We haven't decided to release it. A men's small group based on the book Unstuck.
Good.
We're going to put that out absolutely for free. So it's a video series of 8 sessions. You can gather with a couple of guys and watch the video and answer the questions, and that's going to take you there.
Yeah.
That's going to help you get there. Also at the crucibleproject.org, we have resources. We have some incredible Christian men who've done a lot of work on themselves that are available for coaching if they wanted to schedule a coaching session, and help us get you started. First, get unstuck so that you can have the connections that you really need, that I believe God wants you in.
Okay, two things. Guys, young dads, my son just became a dad for the first time, and I don't know if I've told him this, but if I haven't, you're bringing it up. And I had 4 kids, and it's tough because I'm not trying to blame the mother here. This is a mother's instinct to
Yes.
prioritize and care for that child. But as a man, you do feel like you went from number 1 to number 2. And you have
Right.
another kid, you go to number 3, you go to number 4, you go to 5. And you have to deal with that. And that's, again, that's why you don't expect your wife to be your everything. You need
Right.
guys that you go play golf with, not to neglect your family, or to, in my case, go snow skiing with. But again, not to neglect your family. And if you can't go snow skiing because that's neglecting your family, well, go have coffee, have lunch, right? Do something. But to have that guy. And so anybody, telling you that doesn't happen is not telling you the truth, because it absolutely does. But you can work through it, and you can get to a point where you appreciate your wife for being the mother that God has made her, and not resent her for not being that companion that you want, because you need godly men who are companions. Other thing I want to ask you, you mentioned find those 2 guys. How many guys do you have to go through, I should say, before you find the 2? Because if anybody tells you that the first 2 guys you approach, or your pastor is going to be one of those guys, again, not telling you the truth, you're probably going to have, there's probably going to be a process and take a while.
Correct.
Right? You hear me? Yeah. How many guys do you think you need to go through? Because you are going to go through some guys who are not willing, not able, or you don't, not trustworthy. I mean, it's a process.
Yeah. So I think the benefit of going for it and having multiple conversations is worth the risk of starting this process and doing the hard work so that you have it. I was blessed because before Crucible, I had a lot of friends that were it was pretty shallow relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we had done life together. We knew a bunch about each other. And we knew everything about sports and
Right.
all of those kinds of fun things together. But I hadn't told any of them about the challenging childhood I had, or the things that were, bothering me in my relationship with Deborah, or my wife of 37 years now, or challenges with my kids. We sat around in Sunday school, Bible class, small group, and it's time for a prayer request, and we talk about health issues, sometimes a little bit about career if I'm between jobs, or some prayer requests for a relationship that's more distant from us, but we don't say, my 12-year-old came home smelling like pot the other day, and I don't know what to do, and I'm scared to death he's in with the wrong folks, or pray for our marriage. So it was the Crucible Project weekend in 2009 that got me connected with guys that I'm still doing life with, that I'm still meeting with regularly, that hold me accountable, that sniff out my lack of integrity in the way that I'm talking about things, and will challenge me, and who I trust with really, really deep trust, as they do me, as we've done life together, a decade plus later.
Yeah, and you're also right. I want to reiterate. You say try something. So if you would rank your issues on a 1 to 10 scale, you don't start with the 10. You're going to freak people out. You start with that 1 and see how they respond. And if you get, okay, either, yeah, me too, or at least, oh, I'd like to kind of walk with you through that. Those are good signs. But if you get the guys that are like, oh, okay, well, I'll keep you in my prayers. See you later.
Yeah.
You just,
He's not the guy.
That's not the guy, right? And so it is work. I don't want to tell people that if you just do this thing, it's all going to fall into place. It is work, but it is worth it. It is
Correct.
So worth it. All right, I have to hit another issue because, man, this one, I mean, nobody knows nobody knows my shortcomings and mistakes as well as I do. Thank God, they're not all out there. I mean, there's enough out there that but I know my thoughts. I know even the bad ones, right? And I know the stuff I've done that I'm not proud of. Shame, man, it is a shackle, and it is. Okay, let me just show the cover of the book. You got Unstuck right there, and right underneath it, you got chains being broken. And I think one of the biggest chains in guys' lives, keeping them stuck, is shame. Because again, I'm not ashamed of the things I haven't done or said or thought. I'm ashamed of the things I have done and said and thought, and those are true. How do we break that shame?
Yeah. So, James 5:16 says, confess your sins to one another for healing, because the prayers of a righteous man availeth much. In the evangelical church today, I would challenge church leaders to consider that we have gotten rid of, that we have abandoned this spiritual practice of confession. And confession meaning not just about sins that I've committed, but sins that have been committed to me, on me, that anything that's keeping me in a barrier or a block between me and God is something that needs to be confessed. And so much of those things happen in our thought life, and we take that thought, and we don't take it captive so that we can bring it to Jesus. We take it captive so that we deny that we ever said it. We hide it and repress it and deny it. We kind of push it down, and then we act like it's gone. But the reality is, it doesn't go away. It just is under the surface. It's like we were born with an invisible backpack, and we carry it and we keep stuffing things in it. And over time, it just gets so heavy, it's just weighing us down. And the reality is, while it's back there and it's secret, it starts getting power, and it gets powerful, and it's kind of trying to get out of the backpack, and it acts out and pops out in ways that we don't want. It pops out sideways on usually the people we love the most. And whenever it does, the person that acts out through is you. Yeah. So many of the things that we end up doing, like Paul said, these are the things I want to do, but I don't do them. And the things that I don't want to do, that's what I keep doing. Yeah. Many of the things that we can identify with Paul with around that are tied to those things that we have kept in shame, and we've hid them and repressed them and denied them. And we haven't sat and lived confessionally up to date with a group of men, with people who care about us, and that they're doing the same thing, that it's reciprocal. Because it's in that, James says, that we find healing. Yeah. Look, we get forgiveness in our relationship with Jesus. Thank God. Jesus' blood covers me and my sins, including in my thought life. Jesus' blood covers me. But that forgiveness eternally doesn't always translate to my forgiveness of myself. It doesn't get rid of the things that I'm messing with by keeping them in my backpack. And the truth is, until we get it out and we sit with it and look at it and go, oh my goodness, and we show it to some other people, that's what breaks the shame cycle, right? That's what gets its power away from it and back into us so that we can move forward. It's in that we get the healing so that we can move into being the man that God called us to be.
Yeah, that's interesting, because it's like the shame of unpacking our shame is what keeps us in our shame. Right. Right. But what we fear in unpacking that invisible backpack and laying it out and letting others see it, we fear shame from that, but that's the only way to break the shame. So it's like, worth it. Okay.
And
go ahead.
Randy, leaders go first. I want to say that. Leaders go first. Somebody's got to be authentic and vulnerable first. And in a relationship with someone, whenever I let something out, it gives them permission to also take, hey, I got some stuff. It's a little different than yours, but I got some stuff too. Right. But leaders go first, and we got to take a risk. Somebody's got to go first.
leaders tend to be the last because they think they have the most to lose. And really they have the most to gain. It can be painful, though. I don't want to kid anybody. It can be painful. So all of this is uncomfortable at times, and it can be painful at times, which is why you need to be smart about the way you go about it. You don't just go laying everything out in front of everybody. You work, you find the trust, you build the trust. You could go kind of one item at a time, maybe leave that biggest one in the bottom for now. Let's start with this one up here. So there is a smart way to do it, but let me ask you this, because this is where I want to leave people, because this is scary for a lot of guys. But the only way you're ever going to get unstuck is to start dealing with it. What is the benefit? What is the payoff on the other side of starting, this process? And because I know it's a healthier place, it's a godlier place, it's a more fun place, but they need to hear that there's a benefit to this. There is hope that it won't, that it'll be good, not bad.
Yeah. So there are always natural consequences to sin, and there might be some consequences with me telling the truth. Somebody who's listening to this has been having an affair, and maybe he stopped the affair, but he hasn't told his wife. And if he tells his wife, it may cost the marriage. If he tells her, just walks in and tells her, it very well may cost the marriage. If he gets with a counselor or a pastor and they have the conversation, it may cost the marriage. There's always a risk to telling the truth. And John says, John 1:7, if I'm not mistaken, Jesus came full of grace and truth. Full of grace and full of truth. When we get real and are full of truth, we get to feel the incredible wonder of the scandalous grace of Jesus in a way that's just incredible. We forgiveness is within our heart. Instead of it being ethereal and something out there, it's something that our bodies can feel. Like every cell of our body can feel that grace. And that opens us up. Instead of moving from a heavy weight, we move from a place of joy and peace. And look, there are a lot of men who have never lived much in their life because they've been dragging that anchor around for so long. And so being able to have the freedom lets you touch your purpose in such a way that you wake up with passion. Like there's some fire in the belly to do life in. And when your head and heart is connected because you're connected to yourself and God, then you more easily can bring that to your wife and to your children, that you can see past the complaint that they have or whatever criticism that they may bring you, trying to help you be a better man, that you can hear past that and see their heart, right? Because you're in touch with your heart. The benefit is that other people will look at you and go, there's something about you and I want that. That's what happens when you're able to live free and authentic and be a man of integrity, because what you say matches what you do, your thought life matches what your beliefs are. It's huge. It's huge. It's freedom.
That's what you need to know. It's freedom. It really is. And man, you know it. You know when you're stuck. And if you want that freedom, you need to start down that road. Roy, I appreciate your insight and your encouragement today. Thank you for your time.
You bet. I want to remind you can get a copy of the book, the ebook, at thecrucibleproject.org or pick up the book somewhere. All of our upcoming weekends, 65 retreats in 16 locations in the U.S. and 4 other countries are on that same website.
All right, that's thecrucibleproject.org. If you can make one of those, make it a priority and do that. If you're not able to, at least pick up the book. And again, if you go to the website, you can actually get a free PDF. So, I mean, you don't have to spend a few dollars. It'd be worth every dollar you spent, but you can at least do something. Just, guys, start it. Take one step towards that freedom. Trust me, you'll thank us later. Appreciate you guys being here. If you know someone that you want to hear this, hit that share button. If you haven't liked or followed at Life Today Live, please do that. We'll bring you more encouragement, just like today. We'll see you again next time. There's the Crucible Project website right there.